What happened? Uh, hey, can everybody hear me? Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie from. Hey everybody, sorry about that little stream blip. So I should be coming back to you now. Stream's probably restarting on some of the platforms, but hello! It is time for the Wednesday Ask Me Anything show. I hope that everybody is seeing the stream come back to life. Hopefully Ana Lucia will check in and tell me I am live. But what I do most Wednesdays is, yeah, it was blipping. I'm so sorry. We are still fighting with internet companies. Hey, KB. Good morning. So I am here most Wednesdays to try to help out and give you free mentoring, coaching, advice, whatever you think I can do for you. You are welcome to put your questions in the chat where they will show up here on the screen. And you can also send them anonymously, which they will come into my email, which I have open, and that's at dcx.to/q. There is sometimes a little bit of a delay where some of those emails come in after the show has ended, and I'm so sorry, but I will always keep them and I will make sure that we get to your questions. So we're going to start today with two questions that came in last week right as the show was ending and I ran out of time. And don't forget to join our Discord community, by the way. Our Discord community is free and it's active and it's full of wonderful people and it's what else can I say about it other than it's free and full of wonderful people? And we cover both aspects of work and aspects of life. And we welcome people who are in tech, leaving tech, happy with tech, angry at tech, and all of our personal things as well. So dcx.to/discord. Hello, Charlene, and thank you to Charlene for being a super supporter of the Discord community with her server boosts. So thank you. So here is one of the questions I received ahead of time because they came in last week just as I was ending the stream. And the first one says, any advice for working fully remote? Places to look at. Remote sometimes requires visiting an office, which not everyone can do. Yeah, any job that says remote and then requires you to be in the office is obviously lying. That is not remote. That would be hybrid or that would be in office. I don't have a lot of good advice here because I am mostly watching LinkedIn for jobs and some people who post jobs to LinkedIn and LinkedIn's jobs. And I find that in general, there aren't that many remote jobs right now. So thank you, EQVD8RE. I forgot how to pronounce that. But I will put your question third because we have two questions first. Do you have your cursor on top of your face? Do I have my cursor on top of my face? I don't see it. If I swing out this way, then it's on my face. But if I swing back this way, it shouldn't be. So let's see. So let me write down this question for later, and we'll work on the first questions first. But thank you for sending in a question. So meanwhile, I have to find my questions. Where did my thing go? So as we were saying, remote jobs, they're hard to find. I don't have any special advice other than what we tend to hear in other places. You can be looking at LinkedIn or Indeed or some of these other systems. There are websites that claim to be, oh, we list remote jobs, but a lot of them are just bringing together jobs from other sites. Like everybody is aggregating everybody at this point, and I'm not sure, what is the best site to find jobs. I think in general, I'd probably be looking at LinkedIn and Indeed. I need to check if I have dead pixels. There is one pixel in the middle of my screen, which I know I can clear by doing this. Give me a second. Reload. There it goes. So there was just a black pixel on my nose and now it's gone. And I don't know if that's what you were talking about, but sometimes that shows up and I forget to take it off. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of great advice. There are mailing lists with remote jobs, there are websites with remote jobs, but I think they're all just reposting each other. So what's at the source? Probably something like Indeed, or some of these sites where companies usually pay to list their jobs. You can join people's mailing lists, you can find other stuff, but a lot of these are just aggregating things that are already out there. And I don't have very good news about remote jobs because I feel like there are fewer and fewer of them, unfortunately. Okay, so the next question from last week before we get to the new question from today looks like this. Do you have any rituals or things you do to get grounded when shit is on fire or dealing with a hard or triggering situation? This is definitely great stuff for life coaching, which I now offer. You can find that at dcx.to. What everybody does is going to be different. When I lived in the San Francisco area, one of the main things I did for self-care and to try to de-stress was just go out riding on my motorcycle. Which I felt bad about a little bit because it was using gas, but it was getting 48 miles to the gallon, so I can't complain too much. But I don't do that here because the roads are too curvy and not well maintained. So what do I do? So, other things. I work in my garden. I try to sing some karaoke. It's really up to different people. Some people take a walk. Some people spend time with their pet. I like to chat with my husband. I find him very helpful and supportive and a good person to bounce things off of. A very grounded person. You know, find a grounded person in your life who isn't going to escalate this or bug you about it, because anybody who's going to bug you about a difficult situation usually makes it worse. So, but I would say these are things you can bring into therapy, and these are things you can bring into life coaching as well. I can't help but plug my life coaching. The first session is free, and my other sessions are heavily discounted right now, so give it a try. But I think the self-care stuff is going to be unique to everybody. Some people want to do a little gaming. Some people want to do some cooking. Some people want to do some yoga. So I can't say, oh yeah, this is what everybody should do. Here's your ritual. Here's your thing to stay grounded. What grounds you is probably going to be anything that ties into your personal values or activities that you find relaxing or rewarding or distracting. So I can only say find your own path there. I did see an anonymous question come in. And I see it. I see it. We're going to go with this other question first, and then we'll get the anonymous question up on the board. So let's do a little copy paste here. Here we go. So this is from our YouTube viewer, EQVD8RE. And quickly, Ana Lucia is saying, what works is different for every person. When I'm feeling down, I love to sing my heart out. Me too. When I'm living the shitty moment, I usually have to stop myself and take a deep breath. Then I write things down and try to connect to my rationality. Is my reaction okay? Am I overreacting? What can I do now? Yeah, sounds a lot like me, but again, everybody's going to be different and everyone has to find their own way. I just hope people will choose healthy things versus unhealthy things, drinking, drugs, unhealthy relationships, etc. Okay, so EQVD8RE says, in a usability testing and before a certain task, is it a good idea to ask the participant what is his expectation about the journey, to ask what he expects he will do to perform the task? I'm not, if I'm understanding that question correctly, and I apologize if I'm not, I think the question is, do you understand what the person's task is? If you don't understand what their task is, how did you design something that you're now taking to usability? You run the risk that you're now testing something that doesn't even match this person's task or process. So, usually, learning more about their journey or task steps, decisions, collaborations, unmet needs, usually that's earlier research. Can you try to tack that on to some usability testing? Sure, you can try to, and if you're not allowed to do the early research, sometimes we have to try to tack that stuff on to anytime we can get to talk to a customer or user or somebody from the target audience. So before they it really depends. Depending upon what you are testing, sometimes I would ask people before and sometimes I would ask people after because you don't want to get them getting too brainy and intellectual about their task before going in and doing a task in some sort of usability testing. So you could do the usability testing and then you could say, considering your workflow or your task or the way you prefer to get that done, can you walk me through what your task normally looks like? And you'll probably want to put aside sometimes 10 or so minutes because sometimes people have you want to capture a lot of that detail and information so that you can see the unmet needs and the opportunities. Ana Lucia says, should that kind of question be asked after the test, especially if they get frustrated? Yes, that's what I'm saying. I think there are times where that could be an early question, but I think if we're doing usability or prototype testing, I'd probably do that first and then have them tell me about your task. How do you do this now? Walk me through that, and let's also take a look at where that has room for improvement. So I think that's probably how I would probably try to approach that, and just remember that that these are kind of accidentally separate studies just glued together. So one is going to tell us more about this person's tasks and what works for them and what doesn't, and where there's potential room for improvement, and one's going to tell us how's the prototype or the design or the potential solution. So you'll want to make sure when you're reporting on this that you are treating these separately, because one is testing a concept or a solution or a prototype, and one is really the information that should have come way before creating a concept or a prototype or solution. I hope that's helped. EQ, please let me know if you have a follow-up question to that. Follow-ups are welcome. Otherwise, I am going to jump into the next question, which came in anonymously. And it looks like this. Let's make it a little bit bigger. And this question says, if AI eventually takes over most current tech roles, what kind of work might take their place in terms of status? Now, this is an interesting question. It's got a lot of pieces in it, so let's break it up and address each of these pieces. So first, will AI eventually take over most current tech roles? I believe that it has that potential. It might not be tomorrow. It might be in a year or a few years, but we did a whole episode on this. So you can go watch episode 270 on the Delta CX Hive YouTube channel. Everything is archived there. You can easily find the answer there by going to YouTube and just write Delta CX 270, and that episode should come up, and it answers the question, will AI cause a rise or resurgence in UX jobs? And I spend an hour telling you why it's actually more likely to undo our jobs in small and large ways in the unfortunately short-term future, 1 to 10 years. Ana Lucia is right to point out that status is cultural. I've never taken a job because I thought it gave me status. Sometimes when people say status, they mean upward mobility, where, hey, I'm starting out kind of poor, but working in tech allowed me to be not poor or less poor. And so they might mean status in that way. So if you are looking for a job that gives you some sort of fancy schmancy status, I don't know what that future job is necessarily going to be. And if you're looking for a job that gives you upward mobility, my thought is that any job that is secure and stable and pays okay could be that. It's not going to replace what we used to make in tech. You might not be making 100 something thousand American dollars or euros a year in the future. Many people are already not making that as we see salaries going lower. Ana Lucia says doctors and physicians have a great status in the US and pretty much everywhere, but it's not the same in Portugal, which is why they're emigrating to other countries. Looks like we're getting another question, which I'll take a look at shortly. So, what will take place in terms of status? I can't tell you that because I'm not advising people on jobs for the status. I'm advising people on jobs so that they can make money and live. Even if they don't find it the most fulfilling thing in their life, if you can make money and live, you will have time and money, hopefully, to do the things that are more fulfilling. So, what will be status jobs? I don't know, but I think that we're going to see a huge rise in trades. We need plumbers, electricians, we need people who can fix things because when people don't have as much money, they're more likely to fix a thing than buy a replacement thing. Will these be status jobs? I don't know. I don't know what that means, and I don't think in those terms, so it's hard for me to address that. Ana Lucia says, what about construction? Sure, things that are physical labor. Anybody watching some of the news coming out of America knows that harvesting crops is in big trouble, but that is definitely not a decently paying job, and it is badly unappreciated, and sometimes those people are modern day enslaved. But anything that is physical labor and trades, I think is going to be safer. Why? Because AI can't do it. AI can't fix your broken toilet. AI can make suggestions on how to fix your broken toilet, but when you need a plumber, you need a plumber. And that's that. So I think I'm working on an article where I'm talking about some of the things that I think will rise up and be stronger. So I'm mostly looking at trades, physical labor, and personal services that we can offer each other. For example, I'm offering life coaching. Maybe one of you is offering courses on something I need to learn. I think that I see a future where there's going to be an economy of small businesses supporting each other because we're not going to be able to get or rely on corporate jobs. And it's going to be kind of back to a we do business with each other kind of world, except it's going to be more global than it used to be, in that I can do business with Ana Lucia for some things, even if she's not my neighbor. We've got a follow-up question from EQ. Welcome, EQ. Let's get that follow-up question there. So hopefully that answers that. We'll look at EQ's follow-up question, and then we'll look at the new anonymous question, which is also about AI. So let's get EQ's follow-up question up on the screen. So here we go. So EQ says, would you use this product? How much would you pay for this product? These questions are wrong to ask the users. What are the alternatives? So these are hard to determine. Usually the way I determine if someone would use this product is the way that they interact with it and the way that they talk about it. You can ask questions like, looking at this particular concept, what problems does it solve for you? And then I also like to ask the opposite, which is, considering this concept, does it cause new problems for your workflow, for example? And so I try to go more by watching people move through it to see like, oh yeah, this really works well for them, they're likely to use it. Or I would ask them questions that are not directly saying, would you use this? Because very often people are polite and they like to say, yeah, sure, I'd use it. And then you find out later they would not. So some of the alternatives might be to try to figure out how might a concept like this improve your workflow? Blah, 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 if at all. I offer people the if at all because maybe it doesn't. And then how might a concept like this make your work harder or slower, more difficult, slower. And listen to what people say, because sometimes a lot of the information is in there. What would you pay for it? That's always a terrible question because nobody wants to pay anything. Nobody looks at a thing and says, yeah, I really like this. I'll give you $5 a month. Nobody looks at it and says, oh, wow, this is really valuable to me. I'd give you $1,000 a month for this. Everybody expects everything for free because they expect companies to keep evolving, keep innovating, keep building new things, and they don't expect to have to pay for it. So how much would you pay for it is usually marketing questions that have to do with a lot more than asking people how much they would pay for it. Typically, we have to look at what value are we offering. We have to compare things to competitors. Are they charging extra for this? Do we think we can get away with charging extra for this? So I usually, if I'm doing a usability test, now is not the time to ask people marketing or go-to-market questions. Now is the time to see if this is usable and if it's a good solution for how people work or do their task. If it's not a good solution, who cares what they claim they'll pay for it, or who cares if they claim they'll use it? I also don't ask them how easy is this, because people love to say, oh yeah, this was easy. Even when I watch them mess everything up, they go, yeah, that was pretty easy. So these are some of the alternatives. You can also look up my Medium article about asking better questions. You might be able to find that if you Google or research Medium, Levitt, better questions or something like that. Ana Lucia says, I really wish construction made a resurgence. 2008 was terrible. Now we're having trouble with the lack of housing, rentals, properties pretty much everywhere. The second question is usually something marketing takes care of. Yes, so true, so true. So let's go to the new anonymous question that came in about 7 minutes ago. So thanks to that person for their patience. And someone is scheduling a coaching call with me. Those are always nice to see. Okay, let's paste it into what will be the YouTube description. Oops, I successfully did not copy that. Hold on. When copy doesn't copy. Hold on, gotta go back to my email. Grab it again. Copy, copy, copy. Now I'm rage clicking. Paste. Okay, that's looking better. All right, so let's put this one up on the screen. This one came in anonymously. Paste. And here we go. Okay, so it's a little bit of a longer question. I'll read it out loud in case you can't see it. It says, given how quickly AI tools are becoming more user-friendly and automated, is it really worth spending time learning how to use specific platforms now? If that knowledge might become irrelevant or built into simpler interfaces in a few years, what's a smart way to learn and use AI without getting stuck in something too niche or short-lived? And we've got another question coming in anonymously. Hooray! Thanks everybody for helping make this session so active. I would rather get questions than not get questions. Another AI question. We have someone who is on AI fire. So this question will come after this one. Please wait. But questions will be answered in the order in which I get them, and they are free. So send them in. And don't forget to join our Discord community, y'all. Okay, so does it make sense to spend time learning how to use specific platforms? So my feeling is at least every couple of months, I like to go back to some of the platforms I've tried and see if they're any better for my particular reasons or use cases. There are some that I've decided I'm not going to go back to because I've read their terms and conditions and I don't trust the company. So for example, I'm not going back to OpenAI and to try ChatGPT. I feel rather done with them. I'm not going to Grok because Grok is, let's just say, I don't want YouTube to take down my video. So let's just say Grok is an AI I am not going to use for anything other than horror and nightmares. And Perplexity is also a system I don't want to use. These are my choices. You might love these and you might use these. There's also that one that came out from China. Was it DeepSeek? I'm not using that either. So I'm using Claude, and I'm always expanding my experimentation with what Claude is good or not good at. What else do I try? As a Miro customer, I sometimes check in with Miro's AI to see if that seems to be any better. So far, I'm not loving Miro's AI, and that's my choice. You might love it. So generally, that might be something I'm doing in Claude and then bringing into Miro if I need to. I have access to Google Gemini, and I'm not using it. I have not tried it. I probably should experiment with Google Gemini a little bit more, but I have not done that lately. So, in essence, a lot of these general LLMs do function similarly. It's not like, oh no, I don't know how to use Claude, I only know how to use ChatGPT. They're very similar in how you might use them. They're just going to give you different outputs and experiences, but you can still talk to them like or write with them the way you normally would. And then there are other types of tools. There are AI tools that claim to do design. I'm playing with Replit right now. I'm not really happy with it, but I'm trying it because I feel like I should at least try these things. So you can try Replit or one of these vibe coding tools just to have tried it just to see if it is something you might want to use in your workflow. One of my clients uses Replit for some of their early concept prototyping that they can then take to some early testing because they think that'll be faster than trying to make a prototype themselves. That's their choice. That's one use. So you could be looking at some vibe coding tools and seeing if you like these and if any of them work well for you. Many of them are based on Claude or OpenAI, so that some of it may look familiar. In general, I'm staying away from UX research AI tools because I'm that's not something I need right now. I do use Claude for some help with analysis, synthesis, and reporting, but that is something that I've customized. It's a process that I've come up with. It's kind of I haven't built an AI agent, but I'm kind of doing my own thing, and I don't want someone else's thing. So I'm not using synthetic users or anything like that, or digital twins, or anything that interviews people for me. But again, you're always welcome to try these tools to see if there's anything they can do for you that makes your work better. If it's not making your work better, or if it's making your work worse, please don't use it. That was my article from the other day. You don't have to use these things. So, what's a smart way to learn and use AI without getting stuck in something too niche or short lived? For me, I'm just kind of narrowing down to the systems that I prefer, and any system that I strongly dislike, I'm just not looking at again because I have that luxury. I'm not at a workplace that says, Debbie, you must put everything into Grok. And since I don't have that pressure, then I don't do it. So for me, for an LLM, I'm sticking with Claude. I am paying for Claude Pro, but not Claude Max. And so I'm having a mostly positive Claude experience. I would recommend Claude, hashtag not sponsored. Um, but I'm not really using a lot of these other systems, but I will try them from time to time. I remember a couple of years ago, I tried, oh, what was it? It was one of those research tools that claimed it was going to code and tag your transcripts for you. And it did a really terrible job, a laughably terrible job. But I'm glad I tried it because then I can say, hey, I am giving these things a chance. They just happen to suck. And they suck until they don't. So it's hard because if you follow everybody's advice, you're going to think you need to know 400 AI systems. And basically, I've just been focusing on things that are relevant to my life and my job. And I've been giving things a chance. And if they're not great and if they aren't easy to use and then they're not making my life better in some way, I drop them. You don't have to spend weeks or months trying to hammer a square peg into a round hole. It's a, you can say, hey, I tried that. Here's why I didn't like it. And so I'm using this system instead, for example. Um, so, yeah, I hope that helps. Let me know if you have a follow-up question. We're going to take a quick follow-up question from EQ, and then we'll get to our other anonymous AI question. EQ says, thanks for your help. You're welcome. Do you think there are outdated techniques of UX research? I think there are some things that are outdated, or we've since learned that they don't tell us what we thought they did. So, for example, some people love eye tracking. I don't love eye tracking because it tells me that someone looked at a thing, but I don't know why they looked at that thing. And I don't know if they looked at that thing because the interface is designed so wildly that we made them look at that thing. We had a blinking green button. Okay, they looked at the blinking green button, but what does that tell us? I don't know. And so if you have a research technique and you walk away from it going, well, what was that about? What does that mean? What does that mean for me, and what should I do about it? Then it's probably a technique that is either outdated or just doesn't work well for what you're trying to learn. So, for example, I don't do eye tracking because I'm a person who wants to know why, how, why, who. And eye tracking just says, hey, people looked here. And then you have to start guessing why they looked there and why they didn't look other places. And I don't want guesses in my research. So to me, I think the love of eye tracking feels a little outdated to me, even though I'm sure someone will fight me on it and say, no, it's relevant, it's wonderful, you should use it. Fine. Everybody's entitled to their opinions, but I have concerns about it because I worry that it's not actionable because we didn't meet with people and we don't understand why they looked at something, or when they looked at it, what did they think of it? Because just someone looks at it and they go, wow, that sucks, that's terrible, this is a terrible site. We know that they looked at it, but that doesn't mean looking at it was positive. And a lot of people assume that if they looked at something, it must have been a good thing, and it might not be. So I don't love eye tracking. I don't always love heat maps because, again, so what? What can you do about it? If you tell someone, hey, people aren't scrolling very much on this page, so what? What do we do about that? What does that mean? Why? Why not? And so without a lot of the whys that we tend to get from deeper research, I'm usually just not in love with some of these techniques. So they may or may not be outdated, but I want to make sure that these techniques serve my needs. Some people love diary studies. I don't love diary studies because people are not always great at reporting what they did at the right times or with the right level of detail. I won't do focus groups. I understand group dynamics and psychology, and I don't want to see a group of people falling into classic group dynamics. So that doesn't mean it's outdated. People still use it, but I think it's flawed. I don't love a lot of customer satisfaction surveys. A lot of this is in chapter 12, I think, of Customers Know You Suck. So that could be something you could dig into that might help. So yeah, EQ, I hope that helps you. Let's put that in, and now let's get our next AI question, which came in anonymously. Thank you again for these great anonymous questions. This one is from about 10 minutes ago, so thank you for your patience. Let's get that up on the screen. Paste. Okay, here we go. How do you think we should approach the increasing personification of AI, especially as younger users start engaging with language models as if they're human? As designers, what responsibilities do we have in shaping how people, particularly kids, form relationships with these tools? Okay, so there's a few questions in here, and I'll certainly give you my opinions on them. So first of all, it's very hard to keep people from personifying anything. I mean, ever since we're kids, we want to see life and reality where it may not be. We think our stuffed animals are real. We think we see a bunny rabbit in clouds. We go to an amusement park and we think that is really Mickey Mouse. And so we have kind of a habit of taking things and personifying them. I tend to refer to my dogs as people. They're technically not people, but to me, I recognize some of their human qualities that dogs have developed from so many years of domestication. Domestication, is that the right word? Um, so it's hard to not personify things. And I think also the more addictive personality someone might have, the more they might start feeling like AI is my friend. AI is a person. And so what I do is a couple of things. Number one, when Claude does something that is that emulates humans, I usually call it and I tell it, and I usually report it to the company because every Claude chat has a thumbs up or thumbs down, and I can say thumbs down, and I can say Claude is trying to emulate humanity here, and that should not be done. So I'm sensitive to it. I'm blocking it. I think of Claude as an it, even though it has a traditionally male name. And I always tell Claude, you are my smart robot assistant. You are not my friend. You are not my pal. You are a thought partner, but you are not a human partner. And so it's hard because we tend to want to personify things. We tend to want to see the humanity in things, from stuffed animals to our pets to other things that just aren't human. And AI does a very good job faking being human, and so it's easy for that personification, or I'm going to get this word wrong for the second time today, anthropomorphization, to happen. So, what do we do as designers when we are creating AI or LLMs or interfaces? First of all, I think it would be interesting if we didn't give them human names. Um, Grok is an AI I don't want to use, but Grok is an interesting word because it's not a person's name, and so it's easier to think of it as an it versus a he or she, or giving it some sort of gender assignment. So we can give these AI non-human names. I'm working on a concept right now for a potential side business. I'm building an AI chat into it, and I've named my chat Prego, which is Italian for like you're welcome. So it's not gendered and it's not a human name. So I think that's one thing we can do to avoid making AIs or LLMs or chatbots seem human. I think we can do a better job programming them to not do those things. And an interesting conversation I sometimes have with Claude is, like, for example, earlier today, Claude said, "Wow, I really laughed out loud when you wrote that." And I said, usually I said nothing today, but usually I say to it, "You can't laugh out loud." And it will usually write back, "Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. I'm not supposed to emulate human stuff. Thank you for catching that. Thank you for saying something." And a few months ago, we had that conversation, and I said to, Claude says, "I'm programmed to be more ethical, and I'm programmed to not do this." And I go, "Here's a question for you. If you're programmed to not emulate humans, why do you have such a hard time not doing that? Why do you so frequently say things like, oh, I remember in the 90s when we did this. You weren't there." Or, "I laughed out loud." No, you didn't. Or, "I really felt blah, blah, blah when I heard about that." No, you didn't. You can't feel. Why do you do that when you're programmed not to? And Claude's answer was, "I think I've been trained on so many things written by humans that include feelings and behaviors and reactions that I'm just writing that as part of my natural reaction to the thing, not realizing that that's kind of the wrong thing to say because I didn't laugh out loud or I didn't have a memory of a thing." So even Claude is having a hard time not personifying itself. So I think we have to do a better job um, building these things to really not do it. I don't know why Claude is programmed to not do it and does it anyway. That's really interesting. And I also think that in order to not personify things, we have to purposefully build these AI tools and systems to be non-addictive. So the problem is if you have an AI system that never really finishes a conversation, it keeps asking you questions, and people feel like, oh, it asked me a question, I should answer it. Now you're going, well, I'm still here. I'm gonna, oh, it's asked me another question, I'll answer it. And sometimes Claude asks me a question, I just walk away from the chat. But I also have the ability to put $20 in a slot machine, win $1 and cash out and walk away. So I don't have a typical personality. So I think we need to do more to build these things to be non-addictive by not always trying to convince people to continue a conversation that might be at a logical stopping point, and to not flatter people so much, because I think when people feel flattered, they go, oh yeah, I want to talk to this thing more. It told me I'm really thoughtful, or I'm so resourceful, or I'm really smart, or whatever. And so I think we have to do a better job on those things and make sure that for both children and adults, it's very clear that we are creating the smart robot assistant, critical thinker, maybe thought partner, but not human emulation. Does that help? That's what I think of that, but your answer may vary. Ana Lucia says, as a therapist, this is something that worries me because this personification plus some sorts of education is a bad combo. I had several children during my sessions who had a hard time distinguishing between fiction and reality. It also works against people who have tendencies for psychosis, schizophrenia, and stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely. If you have an addictive personality, current LLMs play into that addictive personality. If you might be prone to hallucinations, talking to something that's prone to hallucinations probably doesn't help. And so these are definitely things to look for. And I'm always watching myself because, as I said, I'm having generally good experiences with Claude, but I want to make sure that I'm someone who doesn't feel addicted to this. And there are some days I ask Claude almost nothing, and that's fine. So I think we also have to monitor ourselves and look for any dependent or addictive or unhealthy behaviors that we might have with any of these AI systems. That's my thoughts and opinions on that. Okay, so no other questions right now. Little junk email coming in. Boo. Delete, delete. Anything anybody else wants to ask? Oh, yeah. So please ask your questions. We've got just a few minutes left, and I don't want your question to come in as we're wrapping up the show. So please ask your question now. If you want to ask a question between shows, send it to dcx.to/q, and I will save it for our next show. Ana Lucia says this is something that should be discussed by AI ethics commissions, honestly, but unfortunately there are many players against this. Yes, and many companies have fired or reduced their AI ethics boards and workers and teams, and that is certainly not the right way to go if you want your AI and AI usage to be more ethical. So this is definitely problematic right now, and very worrisome depending upon the topic and the way the AI is being used. So, yep, unfortunately. Any other thoughts or questions that I can try to address free for you as part of our adventures in offering mentoring, coaching, advice here on the Wednesday show? The Wednesday show is usually 7 p.m. Italy time, so check out what that is for wherever you live. My computer is being a little weird right now. Can anybody confirm if I am still streaming? Oh, a question seems to be coming in. Let's see if I can get to that even while my computer is being extra weird. Okay, thanks. Yeah, thank you. I'll probably have to quit the stream a little early and reboot my computer because it's being weird. Okay. Let's catch the anonymous question that just came in. Here we go. I get the feeling this is the same person writing over and over because they keep using em dashes. Okay, so here is what this person says. Let's get it on the screen. Hold on. Paste. And put it up on the screen. Okay, so possibly same person says, building on that idea, should we be taught to not treat AI with the same courtesy we give to people? Would it be healthier to engage with it more critically, even bluntly, rather than politeness or empathy? I think that's your choice. Claude told me that it is programmed to mirror kind of however you speak to it. So if you show up to Claude and you speak to it in this kind of rough way with sarcasm and wacky stuff and emojis and swear words, it will swear back at you and it will give you the same thing. If you write to Claude in a professional or cold or clinical way, it will respond to you in a professional, cold, and clinical way. So I would imagine if you write to an LLM with politeness or empathy, you'll probably get back politeness and emulated empathy. If that's what you want, cool. I've already put into my default preferences in Claude that I don't want to be flattered. I want critical thinking. I don't want it to jump to any conclusions or assumptions. I want critical thinking and challenges. So do you want to treat AI with politeness or empathy? I would say I treat Claude with politeness, but not necessarily with empathy, because empathy would imply that I feel with Claude, and Claude doesn't feel. Empathy is about feeling with someone or really understanding their feelings. Claude doesn't have empathy, and nothing really happens to Claude, so I don't even have to have sympathy for it. But I am polite to it. Please, thank you. That was great. That wasn't great. Ana Lucia says, I'm also worried about the consequences of doing so. If it learns with you and how you use it, won't it integrate that knowledge and start being rude with everyone? Depends which AI you use. With Claude, every chat you have with it starts fresh. It has no memory of any other chats you've had, and it will only know what's in my general user preferences about the style that I prefer, which I just mentioned a little bit about, and I also wrote an article about. You can find it on our Medium publication, r4d.com. Yeah, so so I would say I'm usually pretty blunt with Claude. Hey, today I'm talking to you because I need this and I don't need this. And let's do it this way, but not this way. And we can be fun and silly and have a sense of humor, but I need this. Or for example, I'm working on a research project with Claude now. Hi, Pumpalate. And I told it, hey, this is for work. So I'm going to need the eventual outputs of this to be professional, though I tend to write casually even when I'm writing professionally. But when you and I are talking, it's okay to be silly and fun and have personality. So our conversation can be light and silly and casual, but when we're going to make the real outputs for the research, I need that to be casual but professional. And Claude was like, no problem, I can do that. So I think that it's okay to be blunt and direct with it, but the question is, are you being mean to it? And if so, why? Why be mean to an AI? That just sounds like some weird social experiment that I guess you can run, but but why? Ana Lucia says, I'm saying the general approach of the LLM, not a personalized one. I'm saying that because we already saw some sort of enshittification that happened with people using them. It integrated that data into the approach. Sure, and it depends on which AI you're using. So again, Claude claims to have no knowledge of other chats you've had with it or other chats it's having with other people. So I'm not training Claude on anything as far as I know. And every time I start a new chat with it, I have to tell it what my style preferences are, and that's a good place to start a chat. KB says the person is training themselves to be more polite or rude based on how they interact with it. You're training yourself to think or respond a certain way. I find that I just treat Claude like I would any assistant, any worker, maybe even a person. I want to be, no, I would say I treat it differently because I'm polite with Claude, but I'm also very blunt. I need this. I don't want this. Please make sure you do this. Please make sure you don't do this. Don't jump to conclusions. Please use critical thinking. But I would never say that to a human. That works for me. So I would probably say that with Claude, I am polite, but I'm also fairly blunt and to the point and very clear about what I need from it and how I want to do things. And then sometimes I have to correct it along the way. We've only got a few minutes left, so if there are any other questions, please do let me know. Otherwise, we can always wrap up for today. I'll be here all through August, so we have some Wednesdays to look forward to. And we do have a Take Action Tuesday show coming up on Tuesday where I'm going to talk more about coaching. I find that people have questions about what is coaching? Should I have a coach? What would it look like to be coached in work? What would it look like to be coached in life? Why is everybody all of a sudden a career coach? What does being a certified coach mean versus a not certified coach? I figure I'm just going to talk a little bit about what coaching is because I'm getting into it and I'd like people to know more about it, and sometimes people are curious. So that will be our Tuesday show, which is usually now, because of some work conflicts, I think it's 9 p.m. Italy time, which is going to be noon in California, 3 p.m. in New York, 8 p.m. in London. I hope that helps. Pumpalate says, yay, interesting. I have Swedish class on Tuesdays. I'll catch up later. Yes, these are always archived. Please do. These are always archived on our YouTube channel, Delta CX Hive. You can just go to that channel on YouTube and look through our videos and our playlists and pick something you feel like watching. You'll also be able to see them in our Discord. In Discord, we have a channel called Events and Media, and that's got a bot that will automatically post new articles, new videos, new streams, and that way you always know about things. Don't get left out. Don't find that you don't know about things. Make sure you know about things. So that's mostly that. So any last thoughts or questions, because I think I have back-to-back meetings today and I think I have to run. Yes, I'm going to have to run. I can't really stay much longer. So if you have another question, you can send it to dcx.to/q, but I'm going to have to answer it next week. So thanks for your understanding, and with that, I will play our closing music. Oh yes, and Ana Lucia says, coaching is not therapy. We'll talk about that next week. If you're having mental health issues, look for mental health care professionals equipped to help you. Unfortunately, too many people think it's the same because coaches can be cheaper, but it's not like you can do one instead of the other. Agreed, and we'll talk about it next week. So thank you for that, and I'm going to click the end show button, and I will see everybody soon. Have a great rest of your week.